Good afternoon. In fact, we're about 5 minutes into the afternoon, and I'm come to a little stopping spot right here. I've got a couple of other things to do. I'll come back a little bit later on this thing and get into the leaves, or the more difficult or the slower part of this. That'll start right in this area right here. We'll probably set these lower pieces here first, come over them with the lead, and I'll do a video of how I'm setting this lead and how I'm doing these pieces. And the method that I'm using here is working well. This one piece at a time is really setting me up for some beautiful straight lines. There was a question about this. Somebody asked, why did I make that not symmetrical? Somebody sent me a drawing of this thing that they were going to do. They'd copied it, and they had this. This will look a little better. I've got a little indentation, a little hole right there. I'll cover that up with solder. But anyway, when I add the solder to this, it'll give it this little rise up there. And I kind of like the way that made this foot look. Throw it a little bit out of just another little twist to the bottom of all these straight lines and stuff. This went pretty well. I'm looking down this thing, make sure we're straight. I've taken some measurements. I'm in a good spot there. This wasn't all that easy, particularly setting these. In fact, I think I did that over here on a video. But setting these and then keeping this lead work relatively tight back this way. So you working on this particular glass and the thickness of it across here, or the width rather across, and then you still need to make it fit here, and then you still have to come out over here where you can continue with your straight line. So there's the straight line work, horizontal line work, contrary to what people may think, or anybody that's doing this stuff knows this, but the straight line stuff is much more difficult because you need all these lines to intersect, and I guess you could be out just a little, but not much. So this went across here pretty fast, and this is all book matched. All of these 12 pieces, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All 12 of those came up right off the sheet of Yakagani that I'm working with, which is, I took them right off right here. So this section right here is the section we're working on, and that across the top here is more or less the contour of the top of this thing. And I think that I gave myself, you don't want to get yourself in a position where you're too short here. And so here's some of the cutoffs here. So, I probably could have made it a little bit less, but you don't want to take any chances on setting this thing and then you didn't have enough glass to get up into here. So I'd rather cut off 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch of glass up here and put it in my pile there than take a chance on it being too short. And each one of these pieces, this piece continues on to this piece out of the same sheet, same part of the sheet, same thing. So when this thing gets up in the light, it'll have this beautiful continuity to it. So far, I'm happy with it. I don't see much I could have done, any different. It'll slow down a little bit up into here. And this is some difficult stuff right here to get that lead around a tiny piece of ground glass. We've got a little, where we pull it together right there, that solder joint right there will make this thing look super round. So that's not a big deal there. Anyway, we'll have a video. I'll start videoing again when we're working, trying to get these pieces here set, because there's some real wild angles and stuff here, and I'll show you how you do that. The one piece at a time method is going to work really good here. And I keep saying this, but if I had all this cut, well, I can't imagine if I'd had all these pieces cut and try to put this thing together and achieve these tight lines that I have here and everything lined up perfectly I didn't have to cut a single piece of this twice. So all of this glass was cut just one time. A little bit of grinding here, a little bit of grinding there. Probably the hardest part of this whole thing so far has been getting these set in. And that wasn't that big a deal. You just had to work with them to get them to set right. and maintain the relationship between, for instance, this piece considerably more difficult than this one because you've got to make both of these fit. So it's not that hard a window to do. It's just there's, you know, a degree of difficulty in any of this lead work that's this narrow, this 3/16 lead. And the 3/16 is the face of the lid. Pretty narrow heart there, so we're compensating for that with our method of doing this stuff. And then you can see here we've got a nice line across here that's going to be real easy to work with. You clean all that up. So that way my lead will just contour along there and I won't have any bumps out or anything. You want all these little intersections here to be just perfect. And so there we are. And then it's important to show up over here on that line because you want this line here to continue on up. Okay, well, that's all I have right now. We'll come back with a video when we start working this stuff in. And this stuff here is a whole lot more difficult than this because we're working with all these curves. And then in here, this should be a real fun thing right in here. Would get that all wrapped up in a single piece of lead coming down, another single piece. So we'll show you how you do all this kind of stuff. When we get to the end of this thing, there will be a lot of good information here for people that are trying to get into lead or maybe trying to up the particular level of craftsmanship that they're currently at up a little bit higher. Okay, that's all I have. I'll be back later on with the beginnings of this stuff. Thank you. Bye now.